Welcome to the Solid Verbal. The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo-woo!
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildebrand. Joining me over there in beautiful New York City, you know him as Dan Rubenstein. Sir, how are you?
Ty, I'm good. Sometimes I wake up feeling like, now that we're talking Pac-12 today, you're not going to play right. I used to know. I used to really know this, but now it don't feel right, Ty. I don't know what it is, and it's made me put away my pride.
Ooh.
So long. Ty, with this episode with the Pac-12,
That's Childish Gambino.
Make this mine.
Childish
It is
Gambino.
Childish Gambino.
I don't know the name of the song. Childish Gambino.
It's Redbone.
What?
Redbone.
Daylight.
Yeah.
How are you, man?
You know, Ty, now that we have saved the best for last, and that would be Pac-12 discussion. I shouldn't say that because we're also talking Notre Dame.
How dare you?
And is that what we're doing? We're doing that, right?
We are doing our teams last.
Pac-12 and Notre Dame, which if you're listening to this right now, get your grandparents in the room.
Okay.
And this is just for them.
Okay.
Grandpa.
Stop it.
The Solid Verbal boys are going to talk Notre Dame.
Stop it.
Grandpa.
I'm yelling. Okay. The neighbors are coming out of their homes here.
Grandpa.
I'm excited to do this show. By the way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to yell breaking news. I need to save my voice, my energy for the remainder of this show. But people are going to be listening to this show, and there are going to be 5 college football games in the books already. You're going to hear this show on a Sunday, which means that I think we need to preemptively do some game recaps. Maybe once we get into our Stanford preview, we can do that because they're playing a game in, did I see Australia? Sydney, Australia?
They already did, Ty.
Oh!
They already played Stanford Rice. How about that one? Oregon State, Colorado State. Who'da thunk? Wowza.
That's right.
Another just who'da. I didn't see that coming. Ty,
Before 40,000 strong at Alliance Stadium in Sydney, Australia.
Alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
What do we call these games, by the way? We had someone email us or tweet us asking what the proper nomenclature is for these early season games. Are they appetizer games?
Aperitifs, they're snacks. Sometimes you see on menu that there's snacks, appetizers, entree, and the snacks are just like, deviled eggs or something that you wouldn't fully call an appetizer, just a bite.
Like a finger food.
Yeah. It's the scene in something about, I'm not going to go there, Ty. I'm just not doing
don't
that
go there.
because it's a family program. We have grandparents listening. That's right, Grandpa. And yeah, it's just snacks. They're snacks.
Well, if there are any Australian verballers who will be there,
they're already there.
Tweet us, let us know. We actually do have a fair amount of Australian verballers who listen to the program. So send us pictures and tweets and all that fun stuff. If you were at the football game last night between Stanford and Rice.
What a fight between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. Holy moly. They're not going to be able to show that one again.
Very good. Very good.
All right. Just making sure we cover all our bases.
Thank you. We do have a new home for our Pick'em pool. Shortly after we did the show on Wednesday, we were able to find a solution. Go to our webpage, look at the posting for this particular episode, look on Twitter, look on Facebook. The new link for the Pick'em pool can be found there. Get in if you haven't already. People who got in the old Yahoo one, we're not going to be keeping tabs. Feel free to pick your games in there if you so desire. We will not be keeping tabs on that one. The official one has been moved elsewhere. So go to the website, check it out. Again, we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the hot spots. You can find all the information you need right there.
Great job, Ty.
So, as you alluded, Dan, we've got one conference left. We've got one big independent team left, Dan. That conference is the Pac-12.
Yep, and that independent team is UMass.
I would like to start in the South and go north. It can be our college football Nile River here. We will close out with Oregon and Notre Dame.
Okay.
As we start in the South, I think it's fairly obvious that the team everyone's got their eye on is the USC Trojans, right?
I think that's correct.
USC 10-3 a year ago. Obviously, it starts with your 2018 first overall draft choice, Sam Darnold. Dan? Crank up that dang hype machine.
Yeah, that train is a chugging.
If you didn't already know every other miscellaneous fact about Sam Darnold, maybe about his grandfather being the Marlboro Man, or the fact that he played multiple sports in high school, any of that kind of stuff, if you didn't know it, you will soon. Here, though, is the coolest. If you didn't see it, we tweeted it. He is co-hosting a podcast with our friend Yogi Roth. The Season of Sam.
Much better than the Summer of Sam.
I don't have anything to add about him on the field. His numbers last year were remarkably consistent for, a redshirt freshman, whatever he was.
Yes.
If you watched him, he's got a presence. There's a ton of reason to be excited, a ton of reason to think that he's really special. Do you have anything to add beyond that?
As it relates to Sam Darnold specifically, you know that he has the capability of being special. The thing that will affect Sam Darnold, though, and what his season looks like is replacing a couple starters on the line that moved on to the NFL, replacing two big receivers in Juju Smith-Schuster and Darius Rogers. And the familiarity is, it's going to take a little bit of time, but he has a ton of young, speedy talent to work with.
Talented guys are stepping up because it's USC. I do worry about the line. I do worry about who he's throwing to. I like that he's got Ronald Jones back. That should provide USC with some big playability on the ground. Defensively, there's a little turnover at all three levels of their defense, but there is a ton of talent coming back there as well. I thought about going dude alert on Cam Smith because he's weirdly anonymous despite being a star middle linebacker.
Yeah, the injuries have hurt. Yeah,
but I'm excited about the potential for this defense with some new guys stepping up. Again, you lose guys like Adoree Jackson, and there are some others, but I still feel pretty good as a whole.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Rasheem Green is legitimately a Pac-12 star along the defensive line. Very good. I think he led, or he all returning tacklers are led by Rasheem Green. Yes, you're right. Cam Smith is very good. Porter Gustin is probably their best pass rushing option. They've recruited very well in the secondary. Really, if there is a weakness to this USC team, I think it is the speed. And that is not to say that there's not talent, which there very clearly is, and I'm not worried that they're going to be at all a letdown, but it is working in new receivers and perhaps the back end. They gave up some big plays last year, and there is a little bit of inexperience that could be a little bit concerning because the level of quarterbacking in the Pac-12 is pretty high, if not the highest in the country. So if you're going to nitpick, those are small issues because the talent is so high in LA. And there's consistency along the coaching staff. And this is, it's crazy to say, given what we saw with Sark and before that, Lane Kiffin. This is Clay Helton's team. He has a good staff in there. So USC is probably the team I'm worried about the least, other than that schedule without a bye week.
The schedule's kind of right in that Goldilocks zone if you're looking to make a title run. It's not too easy, not too ridiculous. Home against Texas, at Notre Dame, the non-conference.
Yeah, and that Texas is a week after Stanford, right?
Correct. Tougher games, not impossible. Good non-conference opponents. Home against Stanford, week 2, huge game. Home against Utah. Home, I use air quotes here, against UCLA. Those might be their toughest conference games.
I have the Wazoo game circled.
Wazoo could be interesting as well.
Friday night game.
I like that they get Stanford early. But the road schedule, look, Cal, at Wazoo, the Friday night game, at ASU, at Colorado the week before UCLA could be a bit of a sleeper, but by and large, this is pretty damn workable.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. They miss Washington and Oregon, as we know, and yeah, it's fine. I just, the no bye week feels like a trip up. They have the non-buffer situations with Stanford, Texas, and Utah going, and then going to Notre Dame. That's the sort of the circle area that I have. But yeah, this is a team that has very little in the way of worries. And that Wazoo game is a little bit interesting also because Wazoo's weakness, and we'll get to it, is the secondary, most likely. And USC has newer, greener receivers, and Wazoo has all sorts of great weapons on the outside, and USC has, some guys to work in their own secondary. So, fun matchup.
USC goes 11-1 in the regular season, and they lose to Texas in week 3.
Whoa.
That's my prediction.
I have 11-1 losing to either Wazoo or Utah.
I could see both of those, but
how do you solve a problem like Utah if you're USC? I think they've lost 2 of the last 3 years to the Utes. Kyle Whittingham.
I've never figured out that problem. I've got Utah going 7-5 this year, which means inevitably they'll go 9-3.
Yep.
Every year they outperform. Every year. I've got a loss to Texas here. I think USC makes the Pac-12 championship. I will decide at the end of the show whether or not they're going to beat Washington in that game.
May I say on USC briefly?
Please.
How does USC compare in your mind to other teams that are regarded in a similar way nationally? So Florida State, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State. I don't know if I'm forgetting Oklahoma, perhaps.
I think I feel better about pretty much all of those teams with the exception of Clemson. And it may have very little to do with actual talent and more to do with the fact that USC always burns us when we have expectations.
Not just us, everybody.
Everybody, not just us, right?
I think that's right. I think I like USC more than Oklahoma.
Agreed.
All things equal, I like the talent that USC has on defense more so than what Oklahoma has. And I love Ronald Jones. We even mentioned that. Love Ronald Jones. And I think I like them. I like them better than Clemson as well, and I really do like Clemson. So that's where I'm drawing my line. I think USC is about the 3rd or 4th best team in the country.
Moving on, let's go to Colorado. Dan, 10-4.
Okay,
10-4 a year ago. Came a bit out of nowhere. Mike McIntyre, coach of the year. Colorado just went gangbusters. It was a great season. This year, we've got Philip Lindsay coming back at running back. Very nearly my dude alert. Very nearly. 1,200 yards, 16 touchdowns. Also, Shea Fields coming back at wideout, big play guy. 96 targets, 9 touchdowns a year ago. I look on defense, though, and I look at the fact that so many defensive playmakers have now left the program.
Jim Leavitt included, yes.
I look at Sefo Lufau leaving and the veteran presence he brought to the offense as a bit of an issue. They've got some turnover on both lines. The schedule is just kind of okay. It feels like a necessary step back, a program headed in the right direction, but a necessary step back. By default, I'll go 7-5.
Pretty good schedule, Colorado. I would add. And I think all of your points are correct. They lose a ton on defense. We saw the guys in the secondary get drafted, how good they were for Jim Leavitt up front. And yeah, the Sefo Lufau thing was a big deal, although he seemed to die in the 3rd quarter of every other game.
True.
So they are used to playing without him. Steven Montez did a good job in relief mostly. And schedule-wise, the non-conference isn't bad. They have a neutral site game against Colorado. They travel to UCLA, which UCLA has a stupid talented defense, but TBD on offense under Jed Fish, and the Rose Bowl is not the most difficult place to play. At Oregon State, at Wazoo, at Arizona State, at Utah. So the fact that they get USC at home, they get Washington at home, and they miss Oregon, Oregon's going to be okay. They're nothing special, but they have the capability to look good at times. So a decent enough schedule. I think 7-5, 8-4, which honestly, Ty, again, where Colorado was 3 years ago.
I would take that in a heartbeat.
7-5 coming after huge losses on one side of the ball. Wow. Great. Cool.
And you never know, too. There really is some skill, talent that's still in Colorado. It's not like the cupboard's totally bare.
Oh, yeah.
Steven Montez, as you mentioned, he looked pretty good in limited action last year, around mid-season when he had to fill in. I thought he was doing a half-decent job.
Yeah. And Mike McIntyre, rocky offseason for, not for him, for much more important people, but off-field stuff aside, done a really good job on-field stuff. I'm
saying 7-5. What are you saying? 7-5?
I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to say 8-4.
Wow. Okay. Well, I hope so.
I like Colorado.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Let's go to Utah, staying in the Southern Division of the Pac-12. Utah went 9-4 a year ago, Dan. Kyle Whittingham announced a few days ago that he's going to give the keys to sophomore Tyler Huntley at quarterback, which was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
That he didn't announce senior Troy Williams. They do, of course, lose Joe Williams, their running back, who went to the 49ers, but it'll be a new look now for Utah. They also have a new offensive coordinator, Troy Taylor, who wants to run more of an up-tempo passing attack. I'm excited about their defense. I think their defense will be able to harass and disrupt opposing quarterbacks. But can we get that hot coals sound out again that we used in our SEC preview when we were talking about LSU?
Yeah.
Can we get that out? Can we talk about Kyle Whittingham and how well he'd fare in that situation?
Among Pac-12 head coaches, Mora would be gone instantly.
Yeah.
I think Rich Rod and Todd Graham gone instantly. Clay Helton might be all right. Whittingham would be gangbusters.
Totally. Yeah. He wouldn't even
Taggart would be okay. Not great. You know who I think would do pretty well? 100 yards of burning hot, scalding coals. Gary Anderson.
Sleeper.
I feel like there's a discipline and
sleeper.
Focus.
Yeah. You got to be disciplined to coach at Oregon State.
Yeah.
Here is Utah's schedule. They could very easily start 4-0. Play North Dakota, on the road at BYU in the Holy War, always a tough game. But they could win that game. San Jose State and then at Arizona, right? But then there's a bye. And then things get weird. Stanford, at USC, Arizona State, at Oregon, UCLA, Wazoo, at Washington, and they finish up with Colorado. That's a stretch, man. That is a stretch to close out your college football season.
They look like, as you said, they look like a 7-5 team that will somehow go 8-4, 9-3, just because the strength of the defensive front is very real, even without Hunter Dimick, who basically tackled everybody and owned every backfield last year in the last couple years. But Lol Lotulelei.
I prefer Lotulelei.
I mean, could you imagine if Lol Lotulelei played at Louisville? It'd not be fun for me.
So much alliteration.
But defensively, they're going to be very good. A little bit worried about the secondary, but up front, they are in a very dominant space. Worried about the offensive line to somewhat of an extent, and quarterback is a big mystery to me. Troy Taylor, as you mentioned, comes over from Eastern Washington, where they had a wide open passing attack. And here's the thing not to discount as well. Even with as much turnover as there is on offense, Utah adds Darren Carrington, who has been a dominant Pac-12 receiver when he is on the field. We saw him light up Florida State and Stanford. He shows up for big games, so he will be making the trip back to Autzen after being kicked off the team. And that's a good place to start he's a sophomore, right, Huntley?
Yeah.
It's a good place to start with a grad transfer star receiver available to you. So, yes, I like Utah. This is just another Utah team. That's a very obvious statement, but I think people understand what I'm trying to say.
I hope they can accomplish a little bit more of an up-tempo passing attack. I think that'd be a neat look for Utah.
Be a huge help to the defense.
Big time. Well, if it succeeds,
yeah.
And if they're not going 3 and out more often than they usually would,
and
then
quicker,
yes.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Okay. UCLA, they went 4-8, part of the 4-8 club from a year ago.
Not a club, Ty. Not a grouping of teams that people are concerned about with that record.
Josh Rosen, he was nicked up. His sophomore year did not go as well as it was supposed to. He's healed up, though. He's back this year. And Dan, very nearly a Fantasy Things selection was Josh. You selected Josh Rosen and his hot takes.
Late, yeah.
Josh Rosen on his third offensive coordinator, also something that we very closely considered, right?
Oh, absolutely. Josh Rosen's in a good place. the line was pretty atrocious last year, which is not a good sign. No real pass catcher stepped up, not a great sign. There's talent there. They couldn't run the ball at all. So Jamaba will be the guy again. I don't think last year was his fault. They were just incredibly inefficient offensively, particularly, or most notably, after Josh Rosen went down. But here is the wonderful news, Ty, and this is, I say this with 100% earnest nature. This defense is stupid talented.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Scrap Bradley.
Yeah.
It's Tom Scrap Bradley. They lose a couple of literal huge pieces along the line, but they've recruited incredibly well there, including the number 1 overall recruit in the country, Jalen Phillips.
Yeah.
So he should, at least situationally, wreak havoc at times. And I think they got the number 1 corner in the country in Darnay Holmes, who, if you've watched him play, is sort of like flypaper. Like, oh, well, he's stuck on you. There it is. That's that. And they're just across the board. They lose pieces in the secondary and they bring in 4 more. Kenny Young is as good a middle linebacker, perhaps this side of Azim Victor in the conference. They're gonna, if the offense does anything, Ty.
Yeah.
This is going to be a top 12 defense in the country.
You would think that Jed Fish could build a passing attack with Josh Rosen.
You would think.
You know, I mean, he did it with Jake Rudock at Michigan. He should be able to do it with Josh Rosen, a demonstrably better quarterback at UCLA. He's got an experienced group of wideouts, Darren Andrews, Jordan Lasley.
But who's good? Are any of them?
I don't know.
They're heralded recruits.
They're experienced.
Okay.
He's got a running game that needs to get a lot better. And this is something that we can't just pan over. They were terrible at running the football. Real bad. A lot returning at running back. A lot returning along the offensive line. They need to figure that out.
You got a grad transfer in from Miami. So they're trying. They're shoring up. Oh, here's the other thing, Ty. We got to pour out. I don't know. Are you drinking anything? I am not.
I've got water.
I had some lemon ginger tea, and that's not a good thing to pour out. But Jed Fish going to UCLA to run their offense means the end of the Michigan-Ohio State Photoshop war between Jed Fish and Zach Smith. And
wow.
A lot of good men were lost, Ty, in the Photoshop war of 2016. Was it 2016? I don't know. 2015. And I don't know who won that war, but I know who lost that war, and that was America. It was an embarrassment for everybody.
We've got 2 teams left in the Pac-12 South, both of the Arizona schools, Dan. Run me through your favorite Arizona school.
I guess Arizona State. The quarterback situation is a little bit more settled. Defensively, they've got to be better and healthier. They bring back, I think the defense, defense brings back a good amount of guys. They just struggled last year. So that's one of the experience. Is it good? That's one of those questions. But Arizona State has playmakers. They have one of the best receivers in the conference, N'Keal Harry. He is a big body and catches a lot, has a very large catching radius. And if they can figure out a quarterback, I don't know. They haven't named a quarterback at the time of this recording. It's going to be Blake Barnett or Manny Wilkins.
Right now, it looks more like Manny Wilkins.
Okay. So he looks to be the option, a more dual threat option, perhaps for ASU. So I'm going to go with that. They have a new defensive coordinator in Phil Bennett, who comes over from Baylor. New offensive coordinator who comes over from Alabama, and Billy Napier, at least a co-offensive coordinator. So talent-wise, I think Arizona State is in a better place. Quarterback place in terms of passing the ball downfield, I think they're in a better place. And line play, especially on defense, certainly is in a better place. So I am with ASU. The schedule doesn't seem terrible. There's another shootout at Texas Tech. Last year was in Tempe. But the schedule seems all right enough. It just seems mixed to me. So ASU has nothing to blame whatever happens in 2017. They have nothing to blame except just on themselves.
I think the overriding theme for ASU is that there's a ton of potential on that team, and it's all very young.
They were so beat up last year.
They were beat up. 2017 is not going to be the year they, quote unquote, turn it around. They might build for 2018 this season. I think that's
for Lane Kiffin?
Well, for Lane Kiffin, for Chip Kelly, who knows where the rumors take us.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is their year to be world beaters. But I like the talent. There is talent there, which is exciting. The other school in the Pac-12 South would be Arizona, Dan. They went 3-9 last year. I like Nick Wilson at running back. I like their running game. I don't like anything in their defensive front seven because they lose a ton. And I am not feeling very optimistic about the direction of this program now under Rich Rodriguez. I
really liked, and I think I still like, the hire of Marcel Yates to sort of overhaul the defense after they parted ways with Jeff Castile, who of course ran his 3-3-5. Marcel Yates running more of a nickel 4-2-5 type look, a hybrid type defense, and it was a mess last year. It really was. And getting talent to Tucson has been an issue. Figuring out identity on both sides of the ball has been an issue. And when you look at the backfield combinations that they have available to them, so that would be either Brandon Dawkins or Khalil Tate or the 37-year-old minor league baseball player who has come in. Any combination of at least those first two guys and Nick Wilson. I don't know if you remember J.J. Taylor from last year.
Yeah, of course.
Who played in Nick Wilson's stead. Little guy, and is so quick. The tiny little burst that he has, he gets from the backfield to the second level, and what he feels like what's the name of the Dalsim warping in Street Fighter 2. He's just warping to the second level. Okay. And he got beat up because he is sort of tiny, but when he is operating, he is one of the more fun players to watch in this conference. But the problem is literally everything else. They feel like a team, like they should be running like the veer or the triple option or something and just steer into a unique look. And it's going to be another long year, I fear, in Tucson.
Not optimistic in Tucson.
No.
Okay.
Maybe they get to 4 or 5 wins. I don't know.
Dan, let's go north.
Okay.
Are you seeing a loss on the Husky schedule this year, Washington? You didn't last year.
Do I see a loss? Yeah, probably a loss.
I'm not sure I do.
Really? Well, listen, schedule-wise, no SC, right? During the regular season.
Right.
Who else do they miss in the South? I think maybe one of the Arizona. Yeah, they don't play Arizona. Okay, that's fine, whatever.
Talk about a great success story from last year. They won 11-1 in the regular season. They lost at home to USC, but they still made the Pac-12 championship game. They clobbered Colorado by 31, won the conference. Then they go on, they play Alabama in the college football playoff. They lost by 17. But as a whole, fair to say, Washington was still underrated in that they weren't taken seriously the whole way through. We got a couple weeks out from the playoff, and people, at least here on the East Coast, were trying to find ways to doubt Washington.
And not their fault either.
Not
it's just
their fault.
Everybody they played had bad years, so they put 70 on everybody. Or maybe that's just my team.
Now, as we turn the calendar to 2017, look, there is virtually no reason to doubt this offense. Everybody is back outside John Ross.
They did struggle once the talent level got higher on defense. They did not throw the ball at all well against Colorado, which certainly had NFL talent in the secondary. They didn't do all that much against USC, and the offense struggled a ton up front, especially against Alabama, which means they can go 11-1 again,
easily,
without a doubt,
easily.
But I don't know that they've gotten so much better on offense that they can overcome when they have to play Ohio State or Clemson or Florida State or even USC in the Pac-12 championship game. Like that to me is still very much an issue that it's just going to take a little bit more time to address. But here's the good news, Ty. Here's the outstanding news. For as glitchy as the numbers that Jake Browning put up, certainly with the help of John Ross, but Jake Browning is one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the country, if not higher. This team was led by its defense.
Yep.
And that's what came to play against everybody. And the fact that they do lose a ton of key pieces in the secondary is concerning, but Taylor Rapp should step right in at safety and be outstanding. We saw him come on late. They get Azim Victor back, who decided to come back after injury. And they have, I think, without a doubt, the best inside defensive line duo in the conference.
Yeah.
They're loaded.
Loaded through the middle.
Yeah, Vita Vea and Greg Gaines are as good a duo as there is. So they're in a fantastic place. They need to sort of figure out pass rushers, but I love Pete. Is it Kwiatkowski? Something like that. The defensive coordinator who followed Chris Peterson from Boise. Yeah, it's outside of, the the UCLA game and traveling to Stanford, their road schedule is nothing. Because even going to Stanford, that's not a difficult place to play. It's not a hornet's nest, as you like to say. So schedule is wonderful.
Offense is loaded. Front seven is loaded. Secondary has some questions, a lot to replace back there. But yeah, the strength is the schedule. You got, I think, only one losable game at Stanford.
Ty, stop me when we get to a team you're positive will score 20 points against Washington. Okay?
Yep.
At Rutgers, Montana, Fresno State, at Colorado. Okay, just waiting there. At Oregon State, Cal. No? Okay. At Arizona State, UCLA.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
So it took till Halloween to get to maybe a team scoring 20 points.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a good schedule.
Oregon at Stanford, Utah, Wazoo. So, yeah, it's a very good schedule.
I am going to go 12-0 regular season. I don't know what happens when they play USC in the Pac-12 championship game. I'm inclined to go Washington at first glance. And I think maybe I'll stick with that. I could be swayed from that position, but I'm pretty high on this team. I like the fact that they have so much coming back on offense, and I still feel really good about their defense. With the schedule that they've got before them, I don't feel like there are a whole lot of teams on there that can burn them through the air. I have
them losing to either UCLA or on the road against Stanford.
Yep, I could see that. No USC on there, though. That's the big thing. I'm high on Washington. Right now, one of my 4 playoff teams.
Cool.
Let's go to Stanford. Talk to me about Stanford, Dan. Actually, you know what? So this show, again, going up when it's Sunday morning. Da-da-da-da.
Oh my God, what a weekend, but there's still time left before work.
Stanford will be 1-0 by the time people hear this. So off the cuff. This is not pre-scripted.
I want them to lose now.
Off the cuff.
Yeah.
Let's record a game recap.
Okay, sure.
Games in Australia. 3, 2. Dan, on Saturday night, or should I say Sunday morning down under, Stanford 38, Rice 10, Dan. Really nice Stanford performance.
I reckon it was a crock pot in down under. That's as good as it gets.
Do they say reckon in Australia?
I think so.
I know they call it Australia. I know that from the Foster's commercials when they said Australian for beer.
Right.
But I'm terrible at doing accents, so I'm not even going to try.
I think it's you replace the letter I with O-I. That's where they're like, you call that a knife?
Huh.
Yeah. I'm very bad at impressions.
Can I be real with you for a second here?
Please. This is a real place, Ty, for real people.
It's a little embarrassing to admit this before tens of thousands of people, but I believe that your raging, perpetual, throbbing Stanford boner is officially contagious.
Ty, you getting a whiff?
I don't know how I caught it from you.
Oh man!
Can you catch it from a hand? Can you catch it from a handshake?
Ty, you can catch it from a handy. Absolutely.
No, handshake. Different. Different. Different thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, it flies, Ty. It flies.
Man, I am in on the Cardinal this year. I am all in.
What has you lathered up?
First off, I love the fact that they've got an identity.
Okay.
They're going to beat you up. They're going to pound it down your throat. They're going to set up play action, and they're just going to play defense. And they're going to find a way to win 9 or 10 games. I love their defense this year. They're going to be so difficult to move the football against. Up front, I'm a little worried, but they're tough to move the football against in the back seven at a minimum.
Yeah, this is all reasonable. I'm myself am very high on Stanford. It mostly has to do with the defense. I think offensively they'll be fine, but they may have the best linebacking core in the conference unless you really believe in USC, and that's fine too. I'll accept that answer. Their secondary looks incredible. The offensive line is ridiculously deep. I know, a shocker to everybody. Right. Bryce Love, as you mentioned, should be very good. He won't be Christian McCaffrey, but very few people are. If it's not Keller Christ, who's coming back from an injury, it'll be one of 2 blue chips waiting in the wings. The redshirt freshman's name is KJ Costello, who I know a lot of people are big on. They've got good receiving targets. They've got like 7 5-star tight ends battling it out. It feels like a very Stanford year. September is tough, and that's just what Stanford does. They lose a game in September, and that's fine. They have USC on the road, in week 2 after the I guess it's like 2 weeks after the Australia trip.
Yeah.
They have UCLA a couple weeks later at San Diego State. I am not up to date on the Aztecs. I know Donnell Pumphrey's gone. I also know that they had, for the most part, an excellent defense last year. They're probably not going to lose to San Diego State, but it's on the road. It's in San Diego. Who knows? It's a garbage stadium. So that could affect things. Other than that, their Pac-12 schedule, pretty great. They have Oregon at home. They have Washington at home. They have Cal in the big game at home. They travel to Utah, and they finish with Notre Dame at home, who we will get to. But, I mean, having two of the three best teams on their schedule at home, fine, great.
I feel 10-2.
Where are the losses?
USC, week 2. If you're going to get Stanford, get them early. I think a week 2 loss against USC at USC. And then I think a loss against Washington in a war. A close game, a war. I feel better about what Washington has in terms of veteran leadership on their offense to get the job done.
Okay.
Than I do Stanford, but I think that's a war of a game. 10-2. 10-2 regular season.
Okay. No, that'll be the Washington offense against the Stanford defense will have to be a better performance from the Stanford defense this year. But there are a ton of upperclassmen on this Stanford defense, so should be fun.
10-2 for me.
Yeah.
Wazoo, Dan. Talk to me about Wazoo.
Okay, Wazoo is the wild card team once again, and that's Mike Leach's destiny is to keep producing the ultimate wild card. Although this Mike Leach team almost feels even Leachier than normal. They could run the ball like really well for an air raid team, short of what West Virginia has done the past couple of years, and somewhat with Oklahoma State. So here's my feeling about Wazoo. Luke Falk is somehow still in college.
Yeah.
God bless.
Yep.
Van Wilder. Don't love the offensive line. Love the trio of running backs. They lose a couple of big wide receivers, but they throw it to like 73 dudes in a year. So that's not something I'm terribly concerned about. Defensively, guess what they have, Ty? Please, try to guess.
They've got a really good front seven and a really questionable secondary.
I'm going to stop you right there. They've got a dude.
Oh. Who do we got?
Say it with me, Ty. Hercules Mataafa.
Yeah, him.
So he is a complete terror. He rushes the quarterback extraordinarily well in that sort of rush and outside linebacker hybrid role that he plays in that Alex Grinch defense. He is so fun to watch, and blocking him it's more of a suggestion than it is a completion. And he is that good. So Washington State, even with deficiencies in the back, like we mentioned, they terrorize backfields. They produce negative plays. Our friend Bill Connolly was writing about this in his preview. And if you are going to give up big plays, it's probably wise to be able to generate negative plays at the same time to balance things out and set yourself up for turnovers. And Washington State, for the most part, they struggled against the better teams on their schedule, but they took advantage of bad and struggling teams. The Oregon game almost hurt more than it did watching Oregon against Washington, and Washington scores 70 because this is Wazoo, and I am a dumb, condescending Oregon fan, but my God, were they good in that game. So I like Wazoo. I have concerns that will lead to losses, but they're going to be real fun again this year. Luke Falk is like, I don't know, somewhere over 4,000 yards away from being a top 5 yardage quarterback in college football ever. So good for him.
He could challenge 5,000 yards this year.
Whew.
It's within reach.
They return a lot.
And I don't know if you mentioned it. If you did, I apologize. I'm going to reiterate. Their front seven is surprisingly good. Mm-hmm. And Mike Leach does this thing where he tries to get his defenses. They give up yards, right? And the secondary this year, of course, is questionable. But they try to create negative plays and force turnovers. And that's fun to watch as a fan. It's fun to watch because if they're making plays, they're big ones. So I'm excited about them. I'm feeling 7-5, 8-4, somewhere in that range. I'm gonna go more 8-4 than 7-5, though.
Yeah, I think that's right. I'm good with that.
Oregon State.
Yeah,
Oregon State went 5-7 a year ago. I like their running back situation this year. I don't like their rush defense this year. I also don't like their schedule, which is extremely challenging. Otherwise, though, I like what Gary Anderson's doing. I think he is positioning the Beavers quite well. For the future, it's just going to be a bit of a rebuild.
It's an impossible schedule, and you're right. Last year, teams ran through Oregon's defensive line like they were not even below average. They were a very poor Red Rover team. They were not good at putting up the wall. Oregon State, the talent level has certainly increased. Their backfield is totally underrated. They have probably one of the best 2 or 3 backfields in the conference. Ryan Nall is very good. Thomas Tyner, who you'll remember, was a starter at Oregon a couple of years ago, retired, is back. They have, I think, a TCU transfer now there. So they should be able to move the ball if the offensive line improves. Jake Luton is the quarterback. He was at Idaho and then went to a JC and was, so he is sort of an unknown quantity, but they should incrementally improve, but as you were sort of alluding to, might not reflect on the final record. I don't think they're making a bowl game this year.
Also, did you know that Jake Luton is 6'7"?
Is that true?
That is 100% true.
Finally!
The new Brock Osweiler on the West Coast.
Love it.
Yeah, we'll see. I like Oregon State for the future. Tough schedule, though, this year.
Yeah.
Also in the Pac-12 North, let's go to Cal. Cal's got a new coach. They went 5-7 a year ago. They hired Justin Wilcox away from Wisconsin, right? Mm-hmm. He was their defensive coordinator.
Yep.
He went out and he hired Bo Baldwin, who was a noted FCS coach at Eastern Washington, right?
That's true. Yep, the Red Field.
Another situation where defensively, I think you got to ask questions. Their road schedule is extremely difficult. They're just young across the board on offense. They've got an entirely new offensive line. This is not going to be Cal's year, which gives me all the more reason to pick my dude.
Yeah.
My dude from Cal, give me Demetrius Robertson, Dan. Former Notre Dame commit, hemmed and hawed around, eventually decided that he was going to go to Cal. Not a bad place to be. He had 90 targets, 767 yards, and 7 touchdowns a year ago. I think he factors in a big way on their offense.
I disagree. Just because I'm worried about quarterback for the Cal Bears, and that's who has to throw him the ball, Ty. I'm a little bit worried about a lot of things with Cal's offense, but I think it'll eventually be all right. There's some talent there. I also like Melquise Stovall. And defensively, yes, they are not where they were a couple years ago in terms of it being a total dearth of talent. The talent level certainly has increased. It's not where it needs to be to start competing week in and week out in the Pac-12 North. But the Tim DeRuyter hire is very nice. He comes over, former head coach, Bo Baldwin, former head coach. So I like what appears to be the stability and foundation for the future. I like the staff a whole lot. Steve Greatwood, who was the long time Oregon offensive line coach, takes over for Cal and, is very good at identifying talent that isn't necessarily blue chip coming out of high school, but develops into high level players. So I think they did a really good job in terms of pointing the program in the right direction. But this year, first of all, weird non-conference schedule, Ty.
Yeah, it's
at North Carolina, then they host Ole Miss. And that's a week before USC, and then they go to Oregon and to Washington State back at home. So it's a rough September and through mid-October, I guess. And you know what? What we can get from this Cal season, because they're probably not going to make a bowl game, but what we can get is what they look like near the end of the year. And if there's a spark of this, if there's a glimmer of that, that is what we can take away. I think they're recruiting pretty well, all things considered. So I'm just in late October, November. Let's see what potential looks like for Cal. And if there's some optimism there because of what happens later on in the season, that's great. That's
why you got to go do Demetrius Robertson. You got to give him something to look forward to.
This is true. He was the guy that Brian Kelly, like they drove the bus all the way down to Georgia?
Yep.
Well, it almost worked.
It almost worked. It was a noble effort.
A lot of gas.
It was fun on social media. But he ultimately decided to go to Cal. So we wish him well. Had a good season last year. And he is my Pac-12 dude.
Good food at Berkeley, by the way. Ty, have you been to Berkeley?
Never been, no.
Man, Chinese food. You can eat good Mexican. Bake Sale Betty for great fried chicken. It's a good food college town.
We got one team left here in the Pac-12 North. Where is I do have a sound.
Oh my God.
The Oregon Ducks, Dan, part of the 4-8 club. Welcome.
Still, I don't think people look at it as a club, and I will congratulate you, though, for being the first person to tie together Oregon being the Ducks and the video game Duck Hunt.
We've had that sound for 3 years, Dan.
I know.
For 3 years.
I'm still congratulating you.
They hired Willie Taggart after going 4-8, getting rid of Mark Helfrich. Also important, though not as flashy. We talked about it when we mentioned Colorado, but they did bring Jim Leavitt over to coach their defense. He will have his work cut out for him, Dan, because the defense was pretty damn bad last year.
So big picture, I think Oregon's doing very, very good things in what they hired and what they are doing schematically with their offense and defense. And they return a promising young quarterback in Justin Herbert. The hires were great. They're recruiting obviously very well. I think they're in the top 10, top 5, whatever, looking forward. But we're talking about this season. And here's what we know about Oregon this season. Justin Herbert should be pretty good. He is playing behind a very experienced and what should be maybe the strength of the offense in the offensive line. They return 4 or 5 starters, including Tyrell Crosby, who's very good at left tackle. They have a very good running back in Royce Freeman, who could set Oregon records, and a couple really good guys behind him. They're weak at receiver, and that was made weaker by Darren Carrington being kicked off the team. So they will be working in a lot of youth. The number 1 receiver will probably be, looks like Dylan Mitchell, who was a big promising kid from Tennessee a couple years ago. The problem is they have the capability of being very good on offense because of those players. They really do. And if you look at the efficiency numbers, it tells a story of they should be able to score 40 plus points per game. Problem is, you take the good with the bad, as we talked about on our SEC preview with Arkansas. This defense is at least a year away from being respectable because talent-wise, it's not there. They infused the defensive line with the Clemson transfer and Scott Pagano. I know they got another JC guy in recently who had been committed to Missouri last minute, but they have a really good linebacker, and the secondary is going to be pretty rough again. They're going to try to work in some younger guys, but playing against Jake Browning, playing against Josh Rosen, I think they miss USC, but even still, they're going to give up points. So if they are bowl eligible, which I think they should be, I think they're in like 6-6, 7-5 range. Yeah. If they get to that point, you'll be hearing a lot of, I barely survived that game last week. I swear to God, I can't.
Well, that's a good point.
I can't do it anymore.
Are you going to be staying up for these late games?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I didn't stay up for the second half of the Cal game last year, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. But it's going to be 49-45s one way or the other.
Right.
It's going to be a very Big 12 year for Oregon.
You got Royce Freeman to watch, though. He's exciting.
Royce Freeman, there's the front freshmen coming in, and hopefully defensively, they at least show up in 3-4 games that they just forced a 3 and out. Let's cherish this. Let's make sure we never forget.
I kicked around calling Charles Nelson either the full or half Nelson.
He's a maddening player, by the way.
So maybe just half then.
He's a player that if he were on Notre Dame, outside of Notre Dame fans, people would be like, oh, he's pretty fun. He played on defense, offense. They use him in a variety of ways. But if you watch every Oregon game with Charles Nelson, you're like, will you please just stop dropping punts?
Yeah.
please. And so, yeah, he's sort of maddening, but when he is on, he is really fun. He's good.
I also workshopped Tony Brooks James as Tony BJ, but I'm deciding against that one. A little too mobster, just not suitable.
Tony Brooks Flames.
Ooh.
He averaged like 7 or 8 yards per carry last year.
I do like him.
He's built in sort of the more LaMichael James, Kenyon Barner mold.
Okay. So we're feeling 6-6, 7-5. Willie Taggart.
I think so. Year. Yeah. It'll be a very Big 12 year for Oregon.
One of the fantasy things that we did not draft is Willie Taggart's connection to Jim Harbaugh and the Harbaugh family. Yeah. The fact that he's kind of a de facto Harbaugh. He played at Western Kentucky under Jack Harbaugh for 4 years. He was a starter. That's the kind of thing where if Oregon puts a few wins together or it does something interesting, that, my friends, is a college game day feature by Tom Rinaldi waiting to happen.
So their schedule starts out, it's fine, because it's Southern Utah and Nebraska at home. Excuse me, Nebraska and the God Tanner Lee.
That's right.
They go to Wyoming, which is going to be tricky, but Wyoming's defense isn't great. They go to Arizona State, which is they're probably going to be better than they were last year when Oregon beat them. Cal, Washington State at home. So before that Washington State game, sure, they could be 5-0 and get a game day segment before completely careening.
It's going to happen. Absolutely.
Yeah. Back half of the schedule, especially sort of October, early November at Stanford, at UCLA, and that's Washington State before then, Utah at Washington. That's a tough stretch. Yeah. That is, if they can go 2-3 in that 5-game stretch, that's gravy. That's complete gravy. So yeah, it's a transition reboot year.
That does it for the Pac-12, Dan.
It does. So who is winning the Pac-12? Washington, obviously, if you have them to the playoff.
I am going to go Washington over Washington 12-0 regular season. Undefeated, obviously, in the Pac-12. I'm going to go USC 11-1, but undefeated in the Pac-12. And I'm going to go Washington over USC in the Pac-12 championship game.
Wait, so, you have them losing to Texas.
That's right.
USC.
That's right.
The body blow theory in effect. Tom Herman early on.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking.
New look. Ooh, that Texas hype coming in strong.
It's coming in, baby.
Double hype game.
Double hype game.
All right. And so let's see. Who is the most improved Pac-12 team? Where by the end of the year, like, you know what? They really, the Colorado, I would say, of this year.
It could be UCLA.
Okay. I like Josh Rosen when he's on. He needs to be more consistent.
Does Josh Rosen care about football? Do we know?
Does he even care about football, Tyler?
Speaking of which,
ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Sirius XM, the solid verbal 888-999-1010. Give us a call on the Dave Davis Dental Hotline. We're talking the Pac-12 season. Is this Sam Darnold and USC's year to shine? I'm sure the Jets hope so, but let's see how it plays out. Crosstown, if Josh Rosen can keep his mouth shut, can he open up more points for UCLA? Big question. No doubt about it. What about Washington? We're still talking about a playoff team from last year. A lot of people forget that. What do you think? Will the nerds at Stanford misdo everything Christian McCaffrey? Big question, no doubt about it. And hey, Chip Kelly's not walking through that door at Oregon, but will the Flash come back for Willie Taggart in the Ducks? Inquiring minds want to know. What about Wazoo? What's going on up there in Pullman with crazy pirate Mike Leach? Better stay tuned, that's for sure. Was Colorado a flash in the pan, or do they have something going on in Boulder? Big question. Zero doubt about that one. Can either of the Arizona schools get something going down there? I feel like we're sleeping on them. What do you think? How about Utah? They always seem like a thorn in somebody's side, but can that thorn turn into a rose? I know I want to know. New coaches up there in Berkeley, but can they be liberal with the wins? And what about Oregon State? Who are they going to sneak up on? I've got some guesses. Lock it in. And once again, 888-999-1010. Give us a call on the Dave Davis Dental Hotline. And because you requested it and because he gets Ty in a lather.
There it is.
Childish.
There he is, Dan. Your Sirius XM preview for the Pac-12. Who are you picking, by the way?
I'm picking Stanford.
Stanford. That's a good pick.
Yep.
I thought about going Stanford.
Yeah, there's something about the combination, and if this is Stanford pending the defensive line coming together, that to me is a huge question given who they have on their schedule. But I love the defense other than that, and love the line up front on offense. I like Bryce Love. The pass catching targets are there. I like David Shaw. I like the continuity, keeping the coordinators and Bloomgren and Lance Anderson. So I'm going with the Cardinal.
The raging Stanford boner still in play.
It's true.
We've got one final team here to discuss, Dan. What's fair is fair. I played Duck Hunt. You can play the old timers music if you so desire.
Grandpa,
if you so desire, you can play it. I'll allow it.
Grandma, the boys at the Solid Verbal are talking Notre Dame football.
You're in a room by yourself, Dan. No one buys it. The joke's not funny anymore.
So I was in that booth in the old studio. Right. And it was, generally on the weekend or after work. But there is now even though I'm in mostly a soundproof room, it's probably like 90% soundproof. There is a window in the door and people do walk by. Right. So there's a good possibility that when I'm yelling, Grandpa, somebody could walk by and be very confused, which is great.
So, You may have heard that Notre Dame went 4-8 last year. Also part of the 4-8 club, Dan.
Yeah.
In case you ever forget what Notre Dame's record was, you can just ask our dear friend Matt Brown over at your website, SB Nation.
Yeah, more than happy.
Matt's a good dude. He just wrote a book. Go buy it. I admire truly the tenacity with which he's committed himself to this joke. Because he's still riding the wave. And dog, you need the patience of a dead horse for it to be August and still talking about Notre Dame going 4-8.
Yes.
So I hope, for his sake, when Notre Dame starts the year 1-0, that you just have enough content to sustain through, to come up with new jokes, things like that.
I like that we are criticizing Matt Brown and anybody else.
I'm not criticizing. I'm saying
not criticizing. We are bringing up, we are alluding to the fact that people like remembering their record and beating a dead horse, whereas years now, the making fun of Notre Dame fans as being old and out of touch. We ourselves, and you're included with this, even though you don't do it, this is a show that we traffic in dead horses.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we are self-aware. We might be not funny, but we're self-aware.
The horse sound itself is a dead horse in this program.
Yes.
Shout out to Brandon McKissick.
We ride.
That's right. Last year, here's how I feel. Last year, it was truly a combination of factors that led to 4-8. The frustrating part is that it was never all the factors at once. So as a fan, you always had this glimmer of hope. You know, the offense looks good, but the defense is terrible. Defense looks good, but the offense can't move the ball. It goes a lot deeper than that. And Notre Dame found themselves in a bunch of close games where there was a glimmer of hope, and then they lost most of them, and it was just a mess. But it was a better team than the record would indicate. You talk to anybody who looks at the stats, and of course the games are not played on paper, but Notre Dame was a better team than 4-8 last year. It didn't materialize. A lot went wrong.
Well, I take everything back.
This year, there is a lot of reason for optimism.
Yeah.
They're loaded at running back with Josh Adams and Dexter Williams. And Tony Jones Jr. is a redshirt freshman who could get some work in Chip Long's new offense. They've also got about 10 options out wide, including my boy Equinemius St. Brown, Dan.
EQ.
He's a big, tall wideout. You might have heard of him.
You selected a dude. Oh, no, I was going to say you selected a dude from your own team.
He's an independent dude.
Robertson. Yeah, okay.
An independent dude. You mentioned a nickname for Equinemius St. Brown.
EQ. Is that not okay anymore?
Could you please repeat that back for the jury?
EQ.
With that in mind, Dan, you know where I'm going with this. God, it's been inside me. It's been threatening me, Dan. For weeks on end, I thought about this one in the car ride up to our live show.
The minister of underwhelming nicknames.
Oh, I am so excited for EQ to give opposing defenses so much trouble.
You know what, Ty? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Because I'm also looking at an equalizer right now. So I'm with it, Ty. We are on the same team with that one.
The potential here for audio jokes for a guy nicknamed EQ may be my own college football singularity.
Yeah, and if Brandon Wimbush isn't any good, you could see him being the victim of a high pass, right?
Maybe a base defense will be a little too much for him.
We're very bad at what we do.
There's no limiter on this offense.
I disagree.
Literally every audio term could be applied here. Equinemius St. Brown. It's not just him. They've got a lot of options out wide. Cam Smith is a transfer who comes over from Arizona State right now. It looks like he's going to be the number 2 guy. A lot of talent to work with, not just at wideout, but at tight end, both with Durham Smythe, Alize Mack. They've got a really good line led by Quentin Nelson, Mike McGlinchey on the left side.
Is it not Alize Jones anymore?
It's Alize Mack.
Hell yeah. I like that. Keep me on my toes.
He returns from academic suspension a year ago. The big question is Brandon Wimbush and how he's going to perform. Not enough is being mentioned about the game of three-dimensional chess that Brandon Wimbush found himself in, waiting out the murky quarterback situation between Deshaun Kaiser and Malik Zaire. They both left. Now he gets 2 years.
He gets 2 years, and so we're talking 2 new coordinators, a new quarterback, a newly at peace and Yoga Meister, head coach,
a softer Brian Kelly.
I think the latest, and we actually have a running list of people Brian Kelly has blamed for things.
Yep.
The newest thing is last year he blamed the time he had to spend on fundraising, correct?
Okay, yep.
That's the new thing. Okay. It's tough. Honestly, it is tough to keep track. But yes, Notre Dame has to be better this year. But it is a challenge because now Notre Dame hasn't, in a while at least, it hasn't felt like they've had a guy who has been like savior, pardon the, illusion because of Notre Dame. But it was like Notre Dame is going to be fine because they have this big armed quarterback in Brandon Wimbush, and they're starting over with a lot of talent on offense, but Wimbush is the guy. How do you feel about that?
No, I mean, I don't think he's earned that.
But isn't that yet? Like the sort of, he's the no doubt about it starter, and the hope to like at least turn this team into an 8-win team is on him.
It is on him. Thankfully, it's not all on him. He's got enough of a supporting cast that if he's just fair to Midland, they should still find a way to win 7 or 8 games.
Okay. They've got a great offensive line in front of him. I love McGlinchey and Nelson.
A great offensive line. Defensively is also a story worth mentioning. Can't focus entirely on the offense because they did bring Mike Elko over to be defensive coordinator from Wake. He will find a way to pressure the quarterback, even if there is some turnover up front. The reports out of practice for Notre Dame is that they're missing fewer tackles. Now, again, it's only practice. Read into that however deeply you'd like to. But Notre Dame has really had an issue with that over the last couple seasons. Missing tackles, guys running through tackles. All the fancy stats that we talk about don't mean jack if you can't tackle on defense. If they get better in that singular respect, I will feel much, much better about where this defense is headed. I don't like that they lose Isaac Rochelle and Jaron Jones along the line, but I think otherwise they should be fine.
Ty, I love the optimism of sort of talking about practice reports that they're better at tackling their own team.
They're better at tackling, okay?
I love that so much.
Listen, 4-8 is where I'm coming from. It's where I'm coming from.
Even I didn't say that.
Well, I'm saying it for you. 4-8 is where I'm coming from. That's my starting point. There's nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, they're really taking it to the scout team. Really. They're looking like national championship contenders against the scout team.
8-4.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. The schedule is such where there really isn't. Are there like difficult runs? I don't think there are.
It's pretty evenly balanced, I think.
They end the season in a tough way, going to Miami, Navy, who is just listen. Even as much as Navy has lost, they're tricky. Notre Dame's on a losing streak against the midshipmen, and then they go to Stanford. So it's a tough way to finish the schedule out. But if this Notre Dame team has their head on screwed on properly, then they'll be fine, and they'll win 7 or 8, maybe 9 games if everything comes together. And Brandon Wimbush is what Notre Dame fans really do believe he is. Middle of the schedule: Boston College, Michigan State, Miami, North Carolina. I mean, that's the sort of mid-September, early October before USC and NC State, which is a tricky one too, Ty.
Yeah.
It's. I think both of those games are in South Bend, though, right?
That's correct.
All right, that's good enough, but that's tough. So
it's tough. It'll be a challenging schedule. It's pretty solid the full way through. A lot does fall on Wimbush, but I'm glad that it all is not falling on him. I'm glad that he's got a decent supporting cast.
Yes, without a doubt. And Durham Smythe is a wonderful name. Stop me when we get to a team that you're not 60% sure Notre Dame can beat. Okay?
Not 60% sure. Okay.
So you are, 40% or less sure.
Okay.
Temple, Georgia. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Boston College on the road. At Michigan State. Miami of Ohio. At North Carolina. I feel like they should be able to beat North Carolina on the road.
They should be able to beat North Carolina. Yeah, North Carolina is doing a major overhaul this year.
Could be monsoon season, though, Ty.
Crap.
We saw it last year.
Crap.
That state. USC. I assume.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
NC State.
On the border.
Wake. Wake should be beatable again. At Miami.
Another possible monsoon game.
Another possible. Ooh,
that
man,
game,
Notre Dame.
That game scares me. That game scares me.
Navy. You feel like they've got their act together?
They should be able to beat Navy.
Okay, and on the road against Stanford, I feel like that is definitely
Stanford a week after Navy is not a good look.
Oh, that's right. The post-Navy body blow.
The post-Navy drip.
Woo! You know what, Ty? Do you have our full soundboard capability at your disposal right now?
I do.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
I don't know what the spread is going to be at Stanford for Notre Dame. Lock up the Cardinal for me.
Lock of the week.
I think that's totally fair. Totally fair.
All right, just making sure. It is August 24th when we're recording it. We just peeled back that layer of the scheduling onion.
At Miami, November 11th. Navy on November 18th, and then at Stanford. So the punch of Miami, Navy, and Stanford to end the year is pretty challenging, to be quite honest. And that will be a test.
If we're going to stretch it out even longer, USC, NC State, Wake Forest, they should win one or two of those games. Still body blow potential in all three of them.
Yeah.
It looks like Navy's defense probably is going to be wonderful, but it's still going to be tough. That's 6 straight just difficulties, I would say. All right.
So there you have it, 8-4. 8-4 is my prediction.
Yeah.
What's your playoff prediction, Dan?
Oh my God. What did it show up on the live show we did for SB Nation? My 4 random teams were like Florida, USC. Okay, so in actuality, it'll be Stanford, Ohio State, Alabama, Florida State, because I think the Ohio State-Oklahoma game will eliminate Oklahoma because I think they lose a game in conference as well.
We've got one team different. I agree on Bama. I agree on Florida State. I agree on Ohio State. I'm going to go Washington instead of Stanford. Those are my 4.
What is a team right now? And I'm loading the rankings up. What is a team right now that is outside of the top 25? And we sort of talked about this before, and you can take a second to load it up. That will finish in the top 15.
Top 15. Wow.
Here are the others receiving votes. TCU, Utah, Notre Dame, Boise State, NC State, Northwestern, Pittsburgh, Oregon. What the hell?
NC State and Utah are 2 that are intriguing to me. Notre Dame, I am inclined to say they're a top 25 team. They're going to be a top 25 team. But will they finish in the top 15? I think that's a red herring because they've finished up with Stanford, as we just mentioned. That's probably a loss. So that would cause them to drop. Okay. So I think the answers for me are NC State and Utah.
You know what? I'm going to go Utah here. Yeah. I'm going to agree with you.
So look, that does it for our 2017 conference previews. Thank you to everyone who listened to all 5 shows or just one of our shows. You can find us on Apple Podcasts at itunes.com/solidverbal. We are also on Spotify and Google Play. Tell your friends about the show. Here is the way this works. We've got a lot of new listeners this offseason. We will preview and release a preview show every Wednesday. We'll then reconvene very early on Sundays. Have we decided what time we're recording on Sundays?
It'll generally be late morning, midday. But I think, and I don't want to offer assurances here because Ty's schedule does vary, generally our Sunday recap show will be available before dinner on Sunday?
Definitely.
Okay. So sometime late afternoon?
Definitely.
Ish, mid to late afternoon on Sunday. So we promise you very little, but we promise you this. Other shows may take their time. That's fine. That's their right. We will always have our very dumb Sunday recap show up by the time you commute to work on Monday morning.
Definitely.
That is without a doubt a certainty that we will promise you.
We have 2 shows a week. We're entering the college football season. If you haven't yet subscribed to our newsletter of intent, you can do so if you go on out to solidverbal.com. If you haven't yet gotten in our pick'em pool, you can go on out to our website as well and get the link. We changed that at the last second. It's now over on funofficepools.com and not on Yahoo where we thought we were originally going to put it, or Oath Sports.
Whatever we're calling
that these days. Dan, there you go. You've got Bama, Florida State, Ohio State, and Stanford. I've got Bama, Florida State, Ohio State, and Washington. Let the 2017 season begin. For that guy over there, Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildebrand. We'll talk to you on Wednesday. In the meantime, stay solid.
Peace.